bringing Gator Nation a different Gator great every episode.
This is Jabari Gaffney. You're listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
Hey, I'm Earl Everett. You're not a Gator, you're Gator bait.
This is Bo Carroll.
Hey, I'm Rita Anthony.
This is Kiwan Ratliff, and you are listening to All for the Gators podcast.
This is Cedric Faison, a.k.a. C4.
This is Brandon James.
This is Jack Jackson. Go Gators.
Hi, this is your boy Jeremy Mincy, a.k.a. Mr. Mintz, and we were the All for the Gators podcast.
This is Ben Trooper. You listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
Hey guys, this is Jarvis Moss. Go Gators.
You rocking with Lito Shepherd, and we're All for the Gators podcast, man. Top notch.
This is Chris Doring, and you're listening to the All for the Gators podcast.
And now, your Gator alumni hosts, John, Andy, and Sid.
Sid, are you loaded?
No.
Already?
No more than usual.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Well done. Well done.
Sid, you still live like you're at UF. I admire that, sir.
I have teenagers in the house.
Oh, okay. I thought those were your buddies out there watching the NBA.
I have that too.
That's what I'm talking about. Speaking of basketball, I know we've been generally a football podcast, but how about the UF basketball recruiting? Have you guys seen what's going on?
Exciting. It's been a long time since we've had some hoop enthusiasm. So
for the men's team, we got a giant.
Literal giant. Figurative? Literal? Both?
Literal.
Okay.
Literal. 7'7", this guy. Some articles say 7'6". Other articles say 7'7". He's the tallest, what is he, the tallest college basketball player ever or something?
Wow. That's Manute Bol, 7'7", right? That was Manute.
Something like that, man.
Wow. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, WWE should feed that guy some cheesesteaks and call him Andre's long-lost grandson or something.
Well, maybe he
right?
can get on the gridiron on the defensive line. Who's going to throw a pass over that wingspan? My God, bat down every pass.
Blocking all the field goals.
I'm saying, that's a special teams unit right there.
And then the women's might have won up the men's.
Not the first time. Lady Gator's always getting the better of us.
Shaquille O'Neal's daughter.
Nice.
Really?
Coming to you.
I hadn't heard that, actually. That's pretty amazing.
I did not see that either.
Do we assume she's a center like Dad?
I don't know. I didn't actually read any of the articles. Okay. I just saw, they all, their last name's O'Neal, and every article says Shaq's daughter.
Amazing.
So I'm not even.
There's that crack staff. Just reading headlines.
Yep.
Okay. There's another headline as we speak, yeah.
Is that a waiver wire pickup? What's going on?
It could be. I'm not checking, though. We're recording. This is serious business.
Oh, sorry, I'm glad you have it on mute.
I do, yeah, I'm all set.
Good job. No.
Well, my phone might not be silenced, but our next guest.
Yes, go with it.
There is no silencing this man. John, give us the intro. I am super stoked for tonight's show. Let's hear it.
King of the segue.
That's right.
Guys, we got another all-time Gator great joining us tonight. Coming out of Southwest Florida at Mariner High, he toted that rock for over 5,700 yards and 86 touchdowns, setting state records for both on his way to earning the prestigious Mr. Florida and All-American honors. Well, he came across the state to play in the swamp, and as a Gator, would overcome some injuries and some splitting time to finish as one of the greatest running backs to ever don the orange and blue. Open up those UF record books, gentlemen. Go ahead. He's 5th all-time in rushing yards, 3rd all-time for running backs in rushing touchdowns, one of only 5 players ever in over 100 years of Gator football to break that 3,000-yard mark. And he's 5th in school history with 9 100-yard rushing games. Gator Nation, I give to you not just an all-SEC back, 2000 SEC champion, 2002 team captain, All-American, and one of this year's Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame inductees, the quick but with a punch, number 5 on his chest, E.G., Mr. Earnest Graham.
All right.
How y'all doing, fellas?
Welcome.
Oh, man, that intro was awesome. I appreciate you, brother.
What a treat to have you on with us, Earnest. Can I call you E.G.?
Of course.
Okay, great. And first off, big congrats on that induction to the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame a few weeks ago. How did that whole experience go, reception and speech and all that?
Man, it was a phenomenal experience. It caught me by surprise. I mean, not that I didn't think I should be, in contention, but, it just, it kind of popped up. I got the call and, they let me know that they would be, inducted me in. So first of all, that was awesome. Then to learn that, Terrence Edwards, who was in the class of 1998, and I'm very familiar with Terrence. Been in Atlanta the last 2 years. Of course, Coach Rick is one of the most awesome human beings and best coaches, in SEC history. And then also, to be in there with Joe Hayden, who's one of the greats of the greats for
Oh, yeah.
the Florida,
Absolutely.
for the Florida Gators, and get a chance to kind of kick it with him and his family. Being in that company, was awesome. The week was great. Obviously with the luncheon and just being in Jacksonville. I haven't spent a lot of time in Jacksonville. It's obviously a gorgeous city. Other than really playing in the Florida Georgia game. I just haven't been there. I'm a Southwest Florida guy, so if you're coming this far, you're probably just going all the way into Georgia. So I haven't really just spent a lot of time in Jacksonville. But being there in Jacksonville, being at all the festivities, hanging around, Gator fans and family was something I'll always remember, man. So it was a great week. And it just so happened my son played a game that Friday night in Jacksonville, so it just all fell together.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice timing.
Yeah, speaking of Jacksonville, unfortunately, we haven't fared that well in the cocktail party in recent years. But you didn't lose one game.
No, we did not, man. I made sure I brought that up in the speech too.
All right.
Yeah, man. I mean, Georgia, man. It was some tough teams during that time. I mean, if you go back and look, it's like almost every single one of those guys played pro football, man. Like, those jokers, they were well put together. I mean, they were a great team, and they'd always come out and they'd, be on top of us early. But it was just kind of a mark of our teams during that time to really play loose and make the plays that needed to be made to ultimately win the game. But man, they fielded some impressive teams, man.
They definitely had some talent on that side, Champ Bailey and whatnot.
They were loaded, man. I mean, if you remember Marcus Stroud and all those guys,
Sure.
Obviously the Bailey brothers, like you said, I played, mostly against Boss Bailey.
Good linebacker.
Guys that I played with, Jermaine Phillips, at safety, Tim Wansley was a corner that I played with, in Tampa. I mean, they had a great group of linebackers during that time, a great group of backs, and Jasper Sanks and Musa Smith and all those guys. I mean, those guys were no joke, man. They just had the prototypical pro body types. If you've been in Georgia and seen Georgia high school football, the Georgia football, like those guys are like, just pro bodies, man. And like I said, those guys were, really great players then, and obviously a lot of them went to play on significant time in the, in the league.
Well, let's take it back to Mariner High in Cape Coral, Florida. You played football, baseball, basketball. At what point did you sense that it was going to be football for you?
You know what, man? I didn't really realize until my freshman year. I mean, I signed on to play both at the University of Florida. I came out and had a pretty good spring. Coach Spurrier pretty much, he kind of pretty much said, hey, man, I think it'd be best if you stick to football. And I never challenged it. So that's kind of like, that's really how that happened. But I got drafted out of high school. So I got drafted to the Phillies out of high school. And coming in, I had a chance to go at the end of the first round to the Phillies. They had a compensatory pick that year because of the whole J.D. Drew situation. So believe it or not, I was, sitting in a La Quinta Inn kind of negotiating with Teddy Dupay about whether or not I was going to go to school or kind of go the MLB draft. And, we chose to be roommates and go to Florida. So they end up drafting me, I believe, because I think during that time, Ricky Williams kind of ruined, guys getting drafted early and still being able to go to school because of whatever happened with this situation. So it was kind of either or by the time it got to me. And they still ended up drafting me in the late 30s, 37s, 40s, something. I don't know, one of those rounds. But baseball and basketball really were the sports that I played the most, to be honest with you. Like, baseball was obviously my first love. And I played a ton of basketball growing up. And, obviously I played because I was too big to play in Pop Warner football, for a couple of years there. So I got back to football when I got to high school, and obviously it worked out.
Yeah, and tell.
What positions did you play on the court and on the diamond?
I was the right fielder, man. I had a cannon now.
All right.
Like seriously, I could really let it rip. So I was a right fielder. mostly. I mean, obviously growing up, I pitched and I played other positions too, but
Did you play quarterback with that arm?
I played a lot of quarterback. Yeah, I was our backup quarterback. I could still throw the ball like a mile. I'm just being honest. Not trying to brag, but I could throw pretty well. I could believe I could function as a quarterback for sure.
Can you throw it further than what did Earl Everett say? 83 yards? He threw it?
I would say I threw it 83. I think the furthest I threw it was 70, 74, somewhere around there. Even
okay.
Yeah, 74.
Not too shabby.
Tight spiral on the money, 74.
So you're excelling at baseball, basketball. You play quarterback.
Yeah.
Clearly, you got this running back thing down. Is there anything athletically you're not able to do?
Actually, no, not athletically.
Excellent. That's spoken like a true Hall of Famer. Very nice.
I mean, I'm just being honest. Most of the things I pick up, I do pretty well. So.
Get a little back to football. You were Mr. Football, Florida's Mr. Football, setting tons of high school state records. You were pretty highly recruited, and now your son is a stud at Buchholz in Gainesville there, and fortunately a Florida commit for 24.
Yes.
Yep.
Kind of a question here is, how's the recruiting game kind of changed since back when you were getting recruited to now what he's going through in the process, or what he went through in the process?
Yeah, it's just. I mean, there's a lot of reasons that it's different. All of these, the ratings and that stuff is pretty robust. The way that they evaluate, kids obviously is different. With huddle and all these different things. Back in my time, like I took a couple unofficials. I came to Florida one time on a camp, but I came to some games obviously. But these kids in there, access to, through camps, 7-on-7s, all these different things. Like an official visit was really a big deal for us during that time. And pretty much every time you come is like an official visit. You know what I mean? So, a lot of it's different. Obviously, like I said, access and, NIL and all this different stuff, kind of is going on. So the space is, really, totally different, and a little bit foreign than, from what I, kind of from what I experienced. Back during my time, like we weren't as aware of, the map, as some of these kids, like for us, growing up in South Florida, it's like Florida State, Miami. It's just anywhere else is like a whole nother planet. You know what I mean? I knew about other schools, but I wasn't as, aware of what Clemson had to offer and what it was like, you know what I mean? And, for these kids, it's a bit different. I mean, these kids will go out to Oregon like it's nothing these days,
The world's a little smaller.
It's just, it's just a lot of things are different.
Yeah. Well, to Andy's question, back to when you were being recruited, ultimately, obviously, we're thrilled you came to UF, but what ultimately landed you on that decision, and what other schools were close, or was there no shot? You knew you were going to be a Gator all along?
Yeah, it boiled down to Miami and UF. Miami, Miami's on probation, or they're just getting off probation, during that time. It was really those two in the running. Right, just outside of that was Clemson, Michigan, a lot of Big Ten schools, because obviously, being a bigger back, I had a lot of interest in, playing in the Big Ten. So those are kind of boil down to those things. Here at UF, obviously, Teddy Dupay is like a brother to me, so, we wanted to go to school together. Javon Curse is like an older brother to me. I grew up, obviously, with Javon. He was already here at school. A guy running battle from Fort Myers was a walk-on, here and played at the University of Florida. So it was a lot of family, here for me. I ended up committing at the, obviously one of the, the best games in 1997, the Florida State game. It's one of the loudest games I've ever heard, in the stadium. And I ended up committing after that game. But, it was a combination of family and then, a mixture of just experiences and moments that I had at UF that got it done.
Pretty strong baseball team back then, still do, but back then they were a powerhouse. Were they giving you the opportunity to potentially play baseball too?
Yeah, we talked about it. It was kind of short lived, like I said. I still remember kind of the day I was coming down the hallways after spring, and coach was just like, "Hey, my man, how you doing?" We were just talking about, the spring and stuff, and it was just like, "Well, I don't know if going out for baseball is going to be the best idea." And I was like, "Okay," I was like, "All right," with Coach Spurs, just all matter of fact, and he just kind of kept walking up. That was like the end of my baseball career for the most for the most part, But yeah, we did talk about it. I talked about it at one point with Coach Lopez, but it never got back off the ground after that.
Another solid Spurrier impression. We've had a lot of those.
Yes. Add that to the list.
You see teams that after some rough losses, sometimes they lose recruits.
Oh, yeah.
You'd kind of think that a recruit would be more motivated to get on campus, help the program. I'm not sure if NIL now has a part of that, but it was happening before the NIL. So
yeah, it was definitely happening before the the NIL. Yeah, I think obviously, the natural answer is that it's different, kind of for each kid and their motivations. Some kids are, more committed and understanding that, there's an opportunity to play. It's going to be, a bit of a process, getting there, and they, kind of value the opportunity to be, integral, in that process. Sometimes it's a little bit more external. You're sitting there, you're watching with your friends, and the school that you're committed to doesn't play so well, and other schools, start to gain, more interest. It's just
the other schools start to look a little sexier, right?
oh yeah, no question. These are 18-year-old kids, and adults are negotiating with them and talking with them, and
Sure.
So they're pretty effective.
Sure. All right. Well,
it's the world we live in. It's the world we live in right now.
Let's go back to the good old days. You get to Gainesville in '98, but you suffer a speed bump when you get there, a foot injury, end up having surgery and getting your medical red shirt.
I did.
At that point, are you crushed? Are you mentally okay with just sitting back watching that first year? What's your mindset after having such an amazing high school career?
Yeah, it wasn't very good, to be honest with you, man. I was kind of lost my first year, to be honest with you. I mean, I was always a really good student. I didn't struggle really, academically, but I did, man. My first year was like tough, man. I was on academic probation and all that different stuff. I mean, I was home a lot. I just really didn't know how to handle, both being hurt and, having kind of, we come out of you the man, and when you're in high school and, all of a sudden the world kind of moves on, without you. So that was really, really tough that first year. So I didn't handle it so well. But unfortunately, we had a great staff here. Coach Franks, who was my running back coach at the time, he was, awesome with me and kept in touch and, kept me motivated. And, by the time I got back in the summer and cleaned things up and, really kind of put one foot in front of the other, things started, to get a bit better for me.
Put one foot in front of the other, you sure did. You heal up pretty well. You wind up splitting carries that next season with Gillespie and a friend of the show, Bo Carroll. And then you start partying like it's 99. You run for over 650 yards, 5 touchdowns. You're voted the SEC All-Freshman Team, third team All-American. Now, after what you just described from the year before, it's such a short time. How are you feeling after the end of this season, and what do you see in front of you going into the next season after such a welcome to the party year like that?
Yeah, if I remember right, it's hard. They run together a little bit for me, but it was a great feeling, man. We had a great group, there in the locker room, and obviously, we had a string of successful, seasons. You know what I mean? So to be able to, to be out of it, I'm saying, obviously for my freshman year, and then to come back, to be able to play, to be able to find the end zone, to be able to find, kind of my role on the team, was really, really awesome. You know what I mean? Not to mention you're doing it with guys that you really respect. Like you said, Bo Carroll, Robert Gillespie and, different guys that, Rob Roberts and Frazier, different guys Rod Frazier, different guys that we had, in the locker room that, had a hand in really bringing, me along, man. So we had a really, really good running back room. So, I was happy to be doing my part, man, and to be back, really, really in the conversation.
You split carries a lot with Gillespie in your career. Was that a battle in practice all the time, or?
Yeah, we were, me and Robert are best friends, man. And
okay,
that's good to hear.
So it was, me, Robert, Rand Carthon later on, we're all best friends. So, we're all competitors, so you naturally compete. We were different. He was, kind of like, they kind of, called us Thunder and Lightning during that time.
Yep,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? And, So he was different and we complemented each other well. There was times where we'd be on the field together and kind of a two tailback set or a hybrid set. So we were always really, really, happy for each other. I mean, we ran the ball better than people gave us credit for, or more than people probably gave us, credit for. If you go back and kind of look at the stats, but we kind of understood that to be a running back at UF, was to be very versatile. To be able to run the ball, when needed to run the ball. To be able to pass protect, to be able to do, certain things out of the backfield. And, you had to always be ready because it wasn't like, we weren't built like, the Michigans of the world or, these other, kind of the other teams where they were really, really going to pound it to kind of hang the hat on the run. It was the actual opposite. You know what I mean? So
the run was the secret sauce of the fun and gun.
it really was, man. It really was, man. And if you got it, for most of us, our yards per carry was really good because we could throw the ball.
Oh yeah.
Saying obviously, very well. So, we both had our own niche, saying kind of, during that time. And it was, it was fun to play together.
Did you have a favorite quarterback that you played behind, or did it matter?
I would say I had a favorite. I mean, I played mostly with Rex, obviously. Jesse was awesome. Doug was awesome. And obviously Rex, I played with most of the time. You know what I mean? And, Rex was, a heck of a college, football player, man. So I spent most of the time obviously with him, and it was just, I mean, when I tell you it was fun, playing football, with Rex Grossman, man, it was a blast. I mean, he just, he was just present for every moment. I mean, he was, kind of a, gunslinger out there, kind of a maverick out there. Never got shook. It's just if you made a movie about a college quarterback, it's Rex Grossman. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
And we had a great time together. We really did.
That's the best analogy I've heard. Maverick out there.
I like that.
he really was, man.
We've heard a lot of Rex Grossman stories on this show. But that's a great comparison.
No question, man. He was that dude, man. Like you can never, and not people try to take it away from him, but you can never take that away from him. Like, he was that guy, like traumatic plays, really squeezing the ball in tight places, just playing loose. Coach Spurrier kind of gave you that air of confidence, and kind of Rex was, obviously an extension of that. Like I would say even more so, like just like that real confidence of like, I'm that guy. And like, we really all, fed off of that.
So the next year in 2000, even though you get another 676 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground, you enjoy a bit more team success that year. You take the SEC championship against Bama. You go 19 for 169.
Nice.
So looking back, how special is that victory to you today?
Oh man, it was awesome, man. I actually watched that game a little, kind of a little while ago, man. But obviously you can't understand what it means to win a SEC championship. You know what I mean? They're not easy to come by. We play in the best, obviously the best conference in in college football. And we were really a good, ball club during that time. I mean, if you weren't ready to play for us, we hang 40 on you in no time. But also to play in that game, for coach to really, lean on me, because you just never knew when that was going to come, right? Like, a lot of times it was, we'd have games where we didn't play so well and coach would get, bug up his butt about running the ball. And then, that would be like, okay, I'm getting the ball, type of thing. And so that game I do remember, being happy after the game that, he really, really fed me, you know what I'm saying? And, it ended up being, I think, a SEC record, SEC championship game record at that time. It's been broken a number of times since then. But during that time, I believe it was a championship game record. And I think we beat Auburn twice that year, man. So it was, it was just a phenomenal game night. And it's obviously always something I remember.
The running backs kind of know what the plan was going to be going into each game. Did you kind of have an idea how many carries you were going to get per game, or was it kind of Spurrier each game playing hot hand, or how he felt?
Yeah, the assumption was that we weren't going to get it a lot. I'll be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? That was always the assumption. But, we knew, like, for instance, if we came off a loss, typically people would hear it. We would, coach would kind of hear it some about us not running, and the coach would kind of make it a point to come back and really run it. You know what I'm saying? But, most games, man, if we kind of knew if we got the ball early in the game and we just say we ran an explosive, we broke off like a 15-yard run. We just knew coach was like, all right, we've got them respecting the run. We're gonna throw it now, and that would be it. You know what I mean? So, and we know if we got it early, we better try to find a way to put it in that end zone, or we possibly might not, get it back. You know what I mean? So, most of the time we knew we were going to play like in a more versatile role, and we had to be active at all facets of, the running back position. But we did know those games where, coach was going to be, kind of making a point to run the rock. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and I guess his scheme didn't quite lend it to how other coaches, if they get a big lead, they may run the ball a little more in the second half. No. He just chucked it all game.
No, he chucked it all game, man. We knew that. We understood it. We were good with it. We knew that was, Florida football. But yeah, man. I mean, if you got down, it was times you can get down the goal line and he might go empty down on the goal line. I mean, that's just the way it was, and we understood it.
Gotcha.
How about the punting on third down? How did that affect you guys?
Oh, you get used to coach, personality. It didn't
send a message.
I don't know that it frustrated us. It just, you just understood that was coach, you know what I mean? And he was going to kind of express his frustration. If he wasn't happy with what's going on, he was going to let you know about it. And he was kind of unpredictable like that. You know what I mean? Like in things that he would say or things that he would do. And it made him really authentic. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing I always say about coach is, coach was really, authentic, man. And
sure.
It kept it live. There's a spirit about him, you know what I mean? And I think we kind of played with that same spirit kind of that he had. And that was to do what was needed and to, to play loose and just win the game. I mean, we just didn't think about losing, dude. Like, like if we were down to, Georgia, it's just, we didn't think about not making the play. Like it's just, something that coach kind of, kind of instilled in us as a group.
Well, moving on to 2001, we've had a ton of your teammates on this show from that squad, and they kind of all had the same, we'll call it the theme of regret. Kind of what are your thoughts on that team and that season?
Are you referring to Docket Gate, I'm sure, the whole situation?
Well, not exactly that. We're talking about the FSU game with the knee.
FSU game, yeah.
Yeah, no, we're talking about 2001 in general with the Tennessee game being rescheduled and then losing at the end of the year.
Unfinished business.
But if you want to talk about the docket, we can talk about it.
No, I mean, you know what? I do kind of tend to stay away from it. Like it would be I think, a number of years after we played, we both would hear about it so much and we both got over it and, kind of moved on from it, but it happened, you know what I mean? And, not being able, both the obviously, the game needing to be rescheduled, but not being able, to be available for that game, obviously it did change the trajectory, of our, of our season, man. I mean, we were one of the better teams to ever suit up here. I really, believe that. And,
we all do.
Needing that, obviously needing what I would have brought, to the table, in that game, man, really hurt us. But, sometimes just, fate plays out a little bit, differently than you expected, man. But, it's obviously for your guys on that team that year, it's obviously something that, we always, we just always think about and we'll always remember and, kind of say our what ifs, man. But, outside of that, it was, man, it was a phenomenal season. It was a fun season. I mean, to play football, you turn on highlights from that year and, it's obvious, man. You definitely wish you could take a lot back from that year and play it all again, as it laid, but it played out, it played out differently, and you got to take your hats off to all the guys that got it done too.
Yeah, team was loaded though, top to bottom.
Period.
Every aspect of that team was loaded.
No question, man. It was a great year, full of memories.
Well, you end that season in the Orange Bowl, and big players show up in big games. And friends of the show out there, you should know that EG is the only player in UF history to have 3 100-yard bowl games, averaging a whopping 135. Wow. So what do you attribute that to?
You know what? I really don't know. Like, it just, I would get up for, I don't know if I just got up differently for bowl games or, we obviously ran the ball more,
Few
in
weeks to
those
lead up.
games for whatever those reasons. I guess so, but it worked out that man, I had a number of really good bowl games. Obviously, my favorite was the Sugar Bowl. I mean, we lost the game, but one of my favorites was the Sugar Bowl, and against Miami.
It was at that game.
But that year, obviously, playing against Maryland, it was obviously a phenomenal game. I know Brock, Berlin, started out that game, and Rex came in and kind of lit the stadium on fire. But it was it was kind of great to be back. I was still having some issues with my MCL that I obviously tore earlier. So I played with a brace on the whole game. But again, it's another game where Coach turned us loose. We knew we were going to run the ball, man, and we were able to put up numbers, man. So I kind of felt like that was a kind of the theme of my career. If we got anywhere near 20 carries, I kind of put up some really, really, really good numbers. And it happened, obviously that night.
Another thing that I'm sure meant a lot to you was your redshirt senior year.
Mm-hmm.
You're named team captain.
Yep.
So what did that mean to you, having that honor?
I mean, that was a big deal. We were obviously going through a transition, during that time. As far as Coach Spurrier, obviously coming from my redshirt freshman year, being kind of on the outs a little bit and not knowing what things would lie, and then obviously, going through my career and being someone that, a number of the guys on the team look to, and, having captain duties. I remember it was, myself, Todd, Ian Scott, and I can't remember who was the other one. I hope he forgives me if he listens to this. But, those were guys that, we came in with. They were all, solid guys, and we were, really in charge of kind of heading up that transition to Coach Zook. And, it was a special honor, obviously.
That year, are you taking a young C4 and Deshaun Wynn under your wing?
Yeah, oh yes, sir, man. Listen, I tell you, man, people want to talk about two talented football players, man. Those guys were talented, man. Ciatric Faison, people don't talk enough about Ciatric and Deshaun Wynn. Like, I mean, those guys were players, like pro body types, like the full package, as running backs. I mean, they were impressive guys, and to be able to have that, obviously, be able to have that year, to be able to be an example for those guys, it's something that I always remember. Hopefully, they remember, and I, did right by those guys as well. But we had a really good, room, headed up by Coach Larry Fedora was our coach, during that time. Good friend of mine who I still, talk to, to this day. And I mean, he had all those guys in their room ready, man. And we had a really, close running back room and really good culture and, the locker room during that time.
Well, you cap off an amazing Gator career that year with a solid 1,000-yard season, 11 more touchdowns, finishing, like I said, third all-time in rushing touchdowns by a running back with 33, fifth in rushing yards, over 3,000 yards, one of only 5 to ever do it, and even won UF's Most Outstanding Running Back Award twice. Do you have a favorite accomplishment from your time at UF?
Man, that's a great question. I don't know that I don't know that, I hadn't thought about it. You know what I mean? I don't know, which, kind of game, actually stands out. Maybe a couple touchdown runs here and there. Like I said, one of the runs against, Miami in the Sugar Bowl. Obviously, some of the key plays and, some of the big games, up at, Tennessee.
Sure.
Obviously any of the, FSU games that, you find the end zone. They had a couple games, like you said, the bowl games, primarily, stand out. So those are things that I really hold on to. I mean, that injury, that year I was injured a good little bit my senior year. So, to be able to kind of battle through injuries and still come away, with a really good, season and a really good successful season is, something that I'll definitely remember.
If you didn't have those injuries and you didn't split time, what do you think you would have accomplished there?
I always think about that, man. I do think about, like, if we were more, kind of more run heavy, what I possibly kind of could have
I
done.
mean, you have these numbers
Yeah,
with injuries and splitting time.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
unbelievable. Yeah, I
yeah.
just wonder if you ever wonder about it.
No, yeah, I know. No, I do. I think about it. I mean, the crazy part is like most of the time I really did get to run the ball. Like those were tough games. I mean, like any running back knows, you can really put your numbers up, if you're playing, some of the 4 or 5 games you had that aren't big games every year. You know what I mean? So, most of the time that I ran the football, it was like, those were key matchups, and that coach knew we needed to run the ball. Most of the time, you know what I mean? But, to have kind of a heavier workload, that would have been nice, man. You know what I mean? And I'm sure the record books would have reflected it. But I'm sure it would have also probably reflected it for Fred Taylor, who's one of the most talented running backs I've ever seen in my life. So guys during the Spurrier era, I'm sure a number of us, would have run the ball a little bit more. The record books would, definitely look different. But I do pride myself on being a very, effective runner, whatever level that I've played at it. I've, been able to get the ball in the end zone and be able to consistently move the chains, and beyond that. So, yeah, it's something I think about and dream about here and there.
Certainly accomplished a lot. So after you left UF, you go on to have a really nice 9-year NFL career with the Bucks. Highlighted there by the 2007 season, almost 900 yards, 10 touchdowns. How was your time in the NFL? And then more specifically, how did it feel to have that specific year?
That year was phenomenal. I mean, obviously, I had, I did my thing on the practice squad the first, pretty much 2 years. I played behind some really good backs, man. I played it behind, Michael Pittman and Thomas Jones, who's,
Yes.
was a phenomenal back. Obviously Mike Allstott, was there. Then coming in the,
Cadillac.
time with Cadillac, and unfortunately those guys got hurt, during that season, and it gave me an opportunity to, to step up and really assume the, running, the primary tailback duties, and end up having a really, really good season, man, and help leading the team, obviously to the, the playoffs that year, which obviously, hadn't been done until, Brady and the group kind of, came around and had some really good seasons. But being in the NFL is when I really realized I was a fullback. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, people don't realize I was primarily a fullback in the NFL. So, like, my years at tailback were like that's pretty much 2 years of running the football. I mean, that was pretty much 2007, 2008, and a couple games in 2009. During that time, man, I was fortunate enough to set a couple records. Reception record and, a couple other, different records, consecutive games, I think with a touchdown and a couple others. So I think the recurrent theme is like when I had a chance to, really run the football, I did pretty well with it. I never begrudged not doing that because I was always like a person just who was athletic minded. So I like being versatile. Like I like playing special teams, playing fullback, playing tailback. I was just a hybrid player, and I think most people don't even, realize how much fullback I played. Like even when I think about UF, I think about how good we could have been as a running back group if I would have played more fullback. And I would have been at fullback and Rob G at tailback. Like it would have really expanded our offense,
Right.
because that's how they used me in the NFL. Because I was big and strong enough to, to block anybody, on the second level in NFL. But then I could also, had a kind of matchup advantages getting out the backfield and slipping to the flats and kind of creating some explosives that way, a motion in the tailback out, while I, kind of stayed in the backfield as the single back. So it provides some advantages. And, obviously at the, in the league, it's a little bit different in terms of how guys, strategize. But, that's when I kind of came into my role as a hybrid, player. So I enjoyed it, man. Playing for Coach Gruden was awesome. Every day was a, history of football with him. I absolutely adored the West Coast offense. I felt like that was the reason that I played for 9 years because I could play both positions and they keep me on the roster, as a fullback and a tailback. The system was extremely complicated, and I could get it down at both positions, and it was a great time for me, man. It was really fun and rewarding experience.
You mentioned the playoff game in 2007. You found pay dirt in that game, didn't you?
I did score against the Giants. I mean, you know what, man, we had ended up playing very well that season, and the Giants were coming in the playoffs. I forget what their record was, but obviously we ended up losing to the Super Bowl champions.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So in hindsight, it didn't feel too bad, but those guys are really good. So I did score in that game. We came up short, man. Those guys were obviously really, really good and just peaking, during that time. But man, it was a phenomenal season,
Do
and
you keep that ball?
I don't know if I kept the playoff ball. I don't remember. They did give us all our balls. I'm pretty sure I have it because they gave us our touchdown balls, so I've got most of them.
Did you ever have a favorite play call? Like when you heard this play in the huddle, you knew. I mean, it was your bread and butter.
Power's our power. I mean, I love power. I mean, power.
Uh-huh.
And when I was playing fullback, Coach Gruden's favorite player, Spider 2, Y Banana. Like I knew I was going to slip. I knew as a fullback I would slip to the flats and get matched up versus a linebacker, end up making a miss and having a big game. So, those are kind of the two plays that I really enjoy running.
All right. So I saw we lost Sid. Sid, are you back?
I sure am. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. Oh, you sound louder too.
I had to come back with a vengeance, and I apologize if you already covered this, but I wanted to point out, although EG claims that he was more of a pro fullback, not too many fullbacks out there catching 40 some odd passes. So it just shows when you really got your chance to get the playing time and that you were still, just like you did when you were in Gainesville, were able to do whatever you needed to do all over the field. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, man. I did. Like I said, I prided myself on just being an all-around player, man. Being able to catch the ball, being able to block, being able to play, special teams. Like for me, like I just always thought about the game athletically, man. So, Tampa Bay like really rewarded me, man, for my value to the team and for my versatility. And like I said, yeah, during that year, I caught I think 40 something balls. I think I remember setting the record for like 13 catches in one game.
Wow.
From the running back position. What's his name? I think what's his name broke it, last year, the year before. But yeah, man, I was highly productive when I, got my shot, man. I think sometimes when you come in a certain way, people always see you that way. So I kind of came in undrafted. After I had a good year in 2007, obviously they rewarded me for having a good year, during that time. But I was always seen as that guy that would just kind of plug in the spots and all those different things. But, if I was needed to really bring home a win from the running back position, I could do it, man, and had a chance to step up in some really, really big games for the Bucks during that time, man. And I'm most proud of that.
So as we've already established, pretty much everything you do, you excel. So after your playing game, nothing changes. You get into coaching high school football and you turn an 0-10 team in North Fort Myers High and turn them into a 9-1 squad. So, you're excellent at basketball, baseball, football, and clearly coaching. Would you describe your coaching style like the old ball coach? You throwing the visor around on the sidelines? Tell us about your experience as a coach.
Definitely not, man. I was definitely a little bit more, I don't want to say chill as a coach. I mean, I would get in kids, I would get after, kids, man. I was fortunate to have a really good coaching staff. I mean, I didn't know I was getting into high school football. It just happened to be down in Southwest Florida. Me and my wife, we had opened an insurance agency because we were also into, insurance. A former principal of mine had just taken over at a school and wanted to know if I was interested in coaching. So I threw the idea around for a little while, and I ended up getting into it, man. And I ended up really enjoying it. It was a lot more to it than I thought. Obviously, dealing with 14 to 18-year-old men, dealing with parents. You forget some of the stuff that we were up to in our high school years, and you do so much more outside of the actual game, than you really do, on the field. But we were definitely fortunate enough, man, to really, turn around a program. That program was had some rich tradition. Deion Sanders played there, Javon Curse, and a number of other guys who played in, NFL, and we were able to bring, obviously football back, to that community. And we ended up having an undefeated season and then losing in the playoffs, ended in a 9-1 record. And, I ended up resigning after the end of the year because it took a toll. You know what I mean?
A lot of work.
It's a lot. It's a lot of work. You know what I mean? So, after the year, man, I needed a break. In a lot of ways, I'm still on a break. It's like, it was a lot. But it was a great time, for me and my family. My daughter Yaya and my son Myles, they were, running around as little kids, around the locker room, watching their dad coach and, watching us, kind of build a program and do some good in the community, man. So it was, it was a great time for my family, man. We had a number of players who went off to, obviously play college football and, do very well for themselves. So, yeah, it was all around success, man, in a great time, and I definitely miss it,
How much are you involved in coaching your son Myles, or are you hands off?
I'm hands off right now. You know what I mean? The last couple of years, training, mostly, I do, kind of have a hand in his development. He started out as a veer quarterback his freshman year, of high school, and then he, got up and played kind of some safety and some linebacker. He started out hanging his hat on defense, then he moved over to the offensive side of the ball, back over to the offensive side of the ball, and played a little bit more of the running back position. And now he's, definitely a good blend of them both. But, kind of the, same mentality that I had. He started out playing, mostly soccer, when he was young. He played in a couple soccer leagues and, then he kind of got into baseball and basketball. He only played 2.5 years really of youth football. So, I kind of tried to give him that same that same mentality of just being an athlete and being able to do, multiple things. And I think it's, served him well, man. He does, very well out there on the field. He instinctually, he has it. Obviously he's a, bit of a, different in stature than I am. He has a couple inches on me, in terms of his stature, man. But I'm really proud of him. Like most parents, man, we kind of give you a framework, and because he's coachable and because he approaches the business a certain way, that's really a credit to him, man. And he's done very well for himself.
Well, we're excited to see him when he gets in the swamp, man.
Man, we are. I'm telling you, brother, we're looking forward.
We need him.
We're 100% looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. E.G. Earnest Graham, we usually end the show in a bit, and we're going to do you or trivia.
Uh-oh.
This is my favorite.
You ready?
Yep.
You or trivia. Here we go. Number one. Who had a higher yards per carry average at UF? You or Eric Rett?
Ooh. Yards per carry. I would say me.
You're right.
Yeah, there we go.
5.1.
Yep.
Eric Rett, 4.8.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Impressive.
All right. Number two. Who had more career rushing yards? You or Freddie T?
Freddie T, and I think by like 10 yards, dude.
You got it.
Exactly.
No, because I looked back and I was like, somebody could have thought it got me those 10 yards. Like I looked back and I was like, so you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking about that. But Fred, listen, man, Fred T was the guy, man. So but I do remember seeing that. Oh yeah.
All right, let's stick with Fred, okay? Who had more career rushing touchdowns, you or Freddie T?
I think I did.
You did.
Right?
33.
Yep.
He had 31.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You even threw one, didn't you?
Yeah, I threw one. One. Yeah.
One at UF and one in the NFL, I think.
One in the NFL. Yep.
Did you remember who caught those passes?
Aaron Kinney.
Tight end.
I believe at UF. Yeah, Aaron Kinney. And then Alex Smith.
Okay.
In the NFL.
Also tight end.
Yep.
All right. Number 4. Who had a higher yards per carry in the NFL? You or Eric Rett, who also played for the Bucs for a while.
Dang. I will switch back to he read in the league.
Nope. You did.
Really?
4.3. He had a 3.5.
Wow.
Yards per carry average.
Okay. All right. Man.
I'll throw a bonus one in there.
I did
Who had more touchdowns in one season? This is off script here, guys. You don't know what I'm going to say.
Nice.
Who had more touchdowns in a single season for the Bucs? You or Warwick Dunn?
Ooh. That's my man, Doug D.
Well, we know you had 10, so the question is, did Dunn get double digits like you? That's a pretty good number.
Man, I got to pick the humble route. Dub D. I just see him as a giant. So
No. You had
really?
10 in 2007, like we talked about.
Really?
He had his most was 8 in
Wow.
2000 for the Bucks. Now.
Wow.
Yeah,
man.
I think he had more than 1 year with Atlanta.
Man. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I did all right for myself.
You did pretty good, man. I call you big time because anytime you played in a big game, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Bowl games, SEC championship games, NFL games, playoff games. All right, man. Earnest Graham, it's been such an honor and a pleasure. Like I said, we were at UF at the same time. You were our RB1.
Thank y'all, fellas.
Man, just a treat to be able to have you on and hear your stories today. So thank you for taking the time.
And I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Yep.
Wow, Earnest Graham. Now we've filled out our just about our entire squad from our time there. We've had our quarterback, we've had a few of our receivers, a couple linemen, and now we got running back one, Earnest Graham.
That's right.
You said it, man. His stats, man. Could you imagine if he was full-time without sharing and didn't have the injuries? Holy cow.
I mean, I wondered that because I don't know if the players think like I'm a fan looking at the numbers thinking that. I don't know if they have that same perspective. So I didn't know if I should ask it, but I felt like I just wanted to throw it in.
He's clearly aware of his numbers, though. He knew it was exactly 10 less than Fred. So that's definitely something, that's not something, that just passing like that was something he knew.
Absolutely.
But 10 yards, man. 10 yards is not a lot of yards.
With him averaging more than 5 yards a carry, I know it's been a while since I was in a math class, but I can tell you he just needed 2 more touches. He had it.
Thank you, doctor.
That's the kind of insight you could find only here on the All for Gators podcast.
No, you said it wrong.
There you go.
Again.
He always says it wrong.
Oh.
No, last show he said it right, and I was so excited about it.
Oh, man. Being the swamp things, we can't get it right.
All right, guys. Ready for our 2 bits?
Always.
All right, Andy, you want to kick this one off?
Mine's pretty easy. It was interesting to hear all the different sports he played. And how good he was at all of them. I did not know that he was a potential first-round draft pick in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, he said he got drafted by the Phillies.
He did.
He did, but he said he was they were looking for, I guess, he said first round, didn't he? And then they ended up drafting him later because he was going to go play football.
Right.
Did I miss that?
They were talking about him being a first rounder, right? But because he was doing football, he slipped.
Yeah, and interesting because he said baseball was his first love. So,
and it's not in his Wikipedia. So, a little mad.
It is funny though to hear that was the Spurrier impression. Well, I don't know about that baseball thing.
Yes.
All right, Sid, you want to go next?
Yeah. I just want to say it seems like this guy just doesn't do anything wrong. He's just good at everything. Baseball, as we've established. He says basketball was his real love. Clearly he had the football thing down, and maybe in another world he might have been a great quarterback. And then when he finally is all done and hangs up the pads, he goes and turns an 0-10 team in one season, walk off, takes him to the championship 9-1, says, yeah, I got this coaching thing down, and he's done with that. I mean, watch out, Earnest Graham, whatever he does, it's clearly going to go his way. And I guess that's a testament to the kind of person he is, and it was really great to get to know him and hear a little bit about him and see the secrets of the success. Because wow, what a great guy, Hall of Famer on and off the field.
Good points, all good points. My 2 bits, and I mentioned it at the end with Earnest. Man, he's just big time. If you look, every big game, the SEC championship game, broke records, 169 yards.
Bowl games.
The only player in UF history to have 3 100-yard bowl games, averaging 135 yards. You know what? You know what that tells me? It tells me that the head ball coach knew, when it was all on the line, he put it in EG's hands.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And even in the NFL, when he had his chance, even though he was doing special teams and fullback, and that's sort of how Tampa Bay was using him, when everybody else got hurt, Cadillac, Allstott, Pittman, they plugged him in, and what did he do? Almost 5 yards a carry, almost 900 yards, 10 double-digit touchdowns in the NFL.
A lot of great running backs never got 10 touchdowns in a season. And in that same season, he had 40 catches too. I mean, wasn't the pass-happy offense it is now for him to do that. And that's, in a limited role. I mean, John Gruden, clearly a great offensive mind, utilized him well when he gave him his chance. Imagine if he had the opportunity to get more seasons like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the playoff game in the NFL, his one playoff game, he finds the end zone.
Of course.
Oh, man.
Big players, big games.
Arguably, you can say he is one of the greatest running backs in University of Florida history.
I don't think anyone's going to argue with that.
No way.
And now he's a friend of the show.
Yeah, you think about big names. You think about Eric Rett, of course.
Emmitt Smith.
Monster numbers. Emmitt Smith, Fred Taylor. Well, he's right up there with them if you look at the numbers. And, man, if he didn't get hurt and he didn't have to split time, there might not be an argument. I mean, what's done is done, and it's on paper, and it's in black and white. I get it. But all things considered, and he put up the numbers, and he has his place in UF history where it is amazing. Awesome show, guys. This one was all in the feels for me here. It's our boy, EG.
And it's going to be awesome to see the Graham legacy continue.
Yes.
Yes. Cool. Love those second-generation Gators.
All right, guys. We'll have everybody on. It'll be a family.
The whole family. Family feud. Richard Dawson, step right up.
All right, guys. It's been a pleasure.
As always.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.